dog catcher to the President of the United States, claim that they're the ultimate environmentalist. And it's very disturbing when all these people who try to throw out and brag about their environmental credentials can't even advocate in an effective way when something this blatant comes right in front of their eyes. If something this blatant can't be dealt with elected officials, what is something which are things which are more subtle? How will they be dealt with these so-called environmentalists? And I'm beginning to wonder if so many of these people are they just fake environmentalists, or are they just lazy environmentalists? And of course, what's troubling over in Roseville is I thought that Roseville Council was full of all kinds of highly skilled, trained, professional, many of them lawyers that would have been their duty to be effective advocates for the little guy. And the other thing, which is also disturbing, when the other top priority of so many governments, again from the dog catcher to the U.S. Congress to the President of the United States, is this idea that we're transparent. And here, what it seems like, number one, is they couldn't get the city council to work correctly up on their website, which certainly isn't a sign of transparency. And like you mentioned, even in other cities like Maplewood, a month later they have a problem getting the city council up. But there's that other
2 weeks
problem.
later. 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, there's also this problem of transparency, is that the reason that all these highly effective, highly skilled people probably weren't able to advocate in the public is because they all had cut a deal in private, and they all knew the deal. Because I find it, again, hard to believe that attorneys who have to write and orally speak on a daily basis can't, when it comes to a simple an issue like this, can't actually raise some issues of contention right there on the plain face when ordinary citizens who come at this for the very first time, knowing nothing about it, raise all kinds of questions. So what it seems to indicate is that where's the transparency? Everybody's keeping their mouths zipped because there's been some sort of bigger deal based in these B cities behind the closed doors, in the shadows, in the back room, under the table, or however you want to say it.
Right.
And these two things is I think, a failure of what's going on in democracy, at least in these local areas.
Right, and you reminded me of something else that when I was watching the public comment when Tam McGehee was talking to the council and addressing them, and this was at the meeting of September 27th, 2010, when she was giving her presentation on her 3-page letter of research that she had done, that she had presented to them, is that there was something, there was a comment that was made in that Star Tribune newspaper, a comment that was made by one of the council members, and she highlighted that particular comment, and she said she was wondering that the comment inferred that the council had had a discussion to come to this conclusion that this council member stated to the newspaper, and that she was wondering when they had come to that conclusion, because she has been watching this issue very carefully, and she never remembered them ever coming to that conclusion in the public light of day. And so she brought that up to the council, and that very issue asked about that. And the other thing that I found very interesting is that, of course, going through her research that she had done was going a little over the 5 minutes allowed for public comment. And of course, the mayor of Roseville indicated to her that her 5-minute limit was up and that she better wrap it up. And she said, well, I don't really come here and speak that often. And this is a very important, weighty subject. And I would like to take a little more time to finish up. And he said, well, just because you haven't come other times, it's not like you basically get to collect your chips and then cash your chips in. But she stood up to him to say, this is an important issue. Tam McGehee stood up and said, this is important for the citizens. We should take more time to talk about it, and you should take more time to listen to the citizens. And I was very impressed by that. I thought that was very important, a very important comment indeed.
And to be sure, share, that is something which I also find disturbing and troubling, that when residents do take time to come to a meeting and have come prepared to a meeting and they're ready to talk on an issue and inform the decision makers, why those decision makers, the people who make the decisions, seem annoyed with that person. And it seems like an extremely highly effective person like this Tammy McGee they should have their ears bent to and their antennas pointed to in a full upright position. It seems to be a culture in so many of these cities that when people end up there waiting patiently, going the extra effort, that they're discounted, they're belittled, they're trivialized, and they're made to feel as if the decision's already been made and there's no point that you're coming in. Just because you're coming, that must be there must be something off.
Right, yes, but one thing, though, I do want to say on a positive vein, though, about certainly one of the things that I noticed with regard to the Roseville City Council meetings, so when you look at their agenda, their public comment is at the beginning of the meeting. And so citizens can come at the beginning of the meeting to address their council for 5 minutes on issues that are not on the agenda. Unlike how it is now in the city of Maplewood, where you have to wait till the end of the night to be able to have the opportunity to address your council at public comment. And because the city council meetings now are you can never tell from one meeting to the next how long they're going to last. The last meeting, I think, was done by 8:30. The meeting before that was done like 11:15. And meeting before that was done at 9:15. So if you are a citizen who wants public comment and go to public comment, there is no rhyme or reason to be able to tell when that might be and when you should show up. Whereas if you had public comment at the beginning of the meeting, like they do in Roseville, like they do in a lot of other progressive cities, citizens can come and do their business with the council, because it is the business of the citizens with their council to have public comment. And unfortunately, like if you are in St. Paul, if you want to address your city council, unfortunately what you must do is that you must figure out who is the council person for your ward and get them to put you on the agenda so that you can be heard at the council meeting. Now that, of course, is totally backwards and is not progressive in the least bit.
And I do appreciate those comments, because you're absolutely right, Mayor Laundrie. The whole point of, and I see this in all the public relations brochures that these local governments and these municipal governments continually put out, is they want their residents to be active and participating. And while they're publicly saying that they want their residents to be involved in their government, if they're like the city of Maplewood and some other governments, they're looking at any citizen who comes and actually tries to interact with their government and they treat them as if they're a hijacker. They're trying to hijack their government. And there's something's not being, there's some connect that is not being made in these municipal governments, and I don't know. It's a disingenuous and a hypocrisy, which I hope there's some people that can address. And I know when you were mayor of Maplewood, you didn't have these artificial fake time limits. You allowed people to say what they had to say and to communicate, and you did it right up front at the very beginning of the meeting, because that's the first thing on the agenda, to hear what the residents have to come to tell us. And I think everybody appreciated that big time. And I know it's exactly the opposite, again, in Maplewood, which is sad. And I actually flipped on the cable station the other night to listen to the city council meeting, and they must have mentioned it 30 or 40 or 50 times how they were trying to be welcoming. And yet all their actions are, again, saying exactly the same. And to me, that's outrageous, hypocrisy.
Right,
and
exactly.
That's what actually builds distrust with government, and that's why there's so many people who find these local governments and other forms of government so disturbing, because they don't actually mean what they say.
Well, and I just want to follow up with one last point, kind of related to that, before we move on over to showing some of the YouTubes. As a proud mother, of course, I have to show some of the film footage from the recent Eagle Scout Court of Honor that we had for my son, Alex Klein. But I want to focus on one last comment that a citizen said to me, is that, you know, Maplewood has had a number of different commission openings in the past couple months or so. And of course, citizens can put in their application and follow up with them being interviewed to see if they'll be appointed. But this particular individual had stated to me, well, you know, it's probably only going to be those folks who are the favored ones who are really going to get appointed. So really there's, you know, if you're not a favored person or somebody that for whatever reason they want to put in those vacancies on the commissions or the boards, that really it's kind of a waste of time to go through the application process, and it would be much better and easier for folks who wanted to be part of giving back to their community to simply put in their applications to serve on various boards and commissions that are available at the county or the state level, and actually just kind of forget about Maplewood, because you know what, it's back to the old boy system. And you just really can't buck the system anymore. So if you want to give back to your community, just bypass them and go and apply to those commission and board openings and that are available at the county and the state level. And I thought, you know, that is such a telling comment. It's kind of a sad comment, but I think it's telling of sort of the way that some people are feeling about how things are, whether or not things are, whether or not the environment is welcoming up at Maplewood City Hall. So now, for those of you who are familiar with YouTube, you know what YouTube is all about. It's a place where people can do postings of their own film footage, whether or not that's film footage of their family event, or it's film footage of some political event they've gone to, or some other film footage of maybe some kind of a statement that they want to get out to the world to be able to see. Now, for those of you that have never been to YouTube, what you can do is that you can go to get on the internet, and you bring up your search engine, something like Google. That's the one that I use for when I do my searches. And you could even just type in the word YouTube, Y-O-U-T-U-B-E, and say search, and it'll bring you right to tell you where to go to the website. So anyway, so it's, or you can just simply type in, as we've got on the screen here, you can see where it's typed in at the very top here. Up near the top here, it says www.youtube.com. Okay, and then you can put in, there's a place for doing a search. And so, say for instance, if you want to watch all the film footage there is about Alex Klein and his Eagle Scout Court of Honor ceremony, just simply type in Alex Klein Show, and you will find what there is. So there's Alex Klein Show. Okay, so let's hear a little bit about the history of what it takes to be an Eagle Scout. We'll get this pulled up.
Getting Eagle Scout to find the paperwork.
Since he wrote it, that's cool. Alex has completed his journey through these ranks and is on the edge of the Eagle Scout summit. Alex officially joined Scouting in 1999 as a Tiger Cub in Pack 31. He's got his shirt over there still. However, he began participating in Scouting much earlier, as he accompanied his older brother, who happens to be here, on Scouting trips before Al was even old enough to join. Alex earned his Arrow of Light and transitioned into Boy Scouts in 2003, and most of the pictures are from then on. Alex earned his Tenderfoot rank in 2003. So guys, remember all this? Then he did second class in 2004 and first class in 2004. And then, like a lot of scouts, Alex earned his star rank 2 years later.